Boom! The sound wasn't a crashing cymbal or a sudden roar from the audience, but the explosive silence that followed Jimmy Kimmel's words. It hung in the air, thick and suffocating, trapping every gasp, every whispered, "Oh my God!" On the stage of Jimmy Kimmel Live, Zrenia Stormy Daniels, her expression, usually a carefully guarded mask, had shattered into pure, unadulterated shock. Across from her, Kimmel, who moments before had worn his signature smug grin, now looked like a man who just realized he'd leapt off a cliff. His eyes, wide and disbelieving, darted around the studio, searching for anything but the direct, unblinking stare of his guest. This wasn't just another controversial interview. This was a line not only crossed but obliterated, a public declaration that would ignite a firestorm and reverberate through the very foundations of late-night television. What in the world had just happened? And how could anyone, especially a seasoned host, utter such a phrase on live television? The evening had unfolded with an almost deceptive calm, an unnerving quiet before the inevitable tempest. The studio lights gleamed, the audience buzzed with that unique blend of curiosity and anticipation reserved for truly high-stakes interviews. When Stormy Daniels was introduced, she walked out to a mixed reception. Applause mingled with audible murmurs. She carried herself with a surprising composure, a quiet dignity that defied the media circus that constantly swirled around her. She settled into the guest chair, adjusted her dress, and offered a small, almost shy smile to the clapping hands. Kimmel, as always, played the affable host, welcoming her with a practiced ease that belied the tension in the room. "Stormy Daniels, ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice smooth, almost soothing. "Thank you for joining us tonight. It's quite a moment." Stormy's reply was simple, quiet. "Thank you for having me, Jimmy." He began with the expected pleasantries, superficial questions about her recent activities, her public appearances, but beneath the veneer of politeness, a palpable unease settled over the studio. The audience, usually raucous, was noticeably subdued, sensing the underlying current, the unspoken weight of the situation. This wasn't just an interview, it was a tightrope walk over a chasm. The conversation quickly, almost imperceptibly, began to veer into dangerous territory. Kimmel, with an almost imperceptible shift in his posture, started to push. His questions, initially framed as inquiries into her journey or public perception, began to carry a dismissive undertone. He'd ask about her motivation, not with genuine curiosity, but with a slight smirk, as if implying a darker, more cynical reason behind her actions. "Some people say," he began, leaning forward, "that this is all a bit of a show, a calculated move for more notoriety, more attention." Stormy, however, remained remarkably composed. Her answers were concise, her gaze direct. She deflected his veiled accusations, not with anger, but with a quiet, almost weary logic. "I'm simply telling my truth, Jimmy," she said, her voice steady. "Something I believe everyone has a right to do." The audience stirred, a ripple of unease moving through the rows. This wasn't the fiery, emotional figure some might have expected. This was a woman holding her ground with surprising strength. Kimmel, seemingly frustrated by her composure, escalated. He began to delve deeper into her past, not relevant to the current political firestorm, but rather designed to remind the audience of her adult film career, attempting to subtly undermine her credibility. "So, when you reflect on your career choices, do you ever feel exploited?" he probed, a tone of feigned concern laced with thinly veiled judgment. Stormy's smile tightened, but she did not break. "Exploited? No, Jimmy. Empowered. I made my own choices, unlike some powerful men who try to make choices for other people." The retort was sharp, unexpected, and it landed squarely. A murmur of surprise ran through the audience. Kimmel's face tightened, but he pressed on, seemingly determined to break her. "You've been through so much, been so public with your life. Don't you ever just want to disappear? Go back to a normal, quiet life?" He finished the question with a cynical chuckle, implying that her current path was anything but normal, anything but quiet. The bait was clear: to get her to admit regret, weakness, or a desire for escape. But Stormy Daniels, a woman who had navigated far rougher waters than a late-night talk show, would not take it. Her eyes, which had maintained an almost unnerving calm throughout the escalating tension, narrowed slightly. She paused, letting the silence draw out, allowing Kimmel's smirk to solidify. And then she leaned forward, her voice dropping to a low, incredibly dangerous timbre. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the hum of the studio like a razor. "You know, Jimmy," she began, her gaze unwavering, fixed directly on his eyes. "After everything I've been through, after all the threats, the lawsuits, the public scrutiny, and the sheer audacity of certain men, sometimes after all that, there's only one thing left to say to people like you. The truly honest, raw truth, isn't there?" Kimmel's grin faltered. He sensed the shift, the coming blow, but he was powerless to stop it. He opened his mouth, perhaps to interject, to pivot, but no sound came out. Stormy's voice, is still low, became crystalline clear, reverberating through the silent studio, carrying every word to every single viewer. "Because honestly, Jimmy," she said, her eyes boring into his, "after all your snide remarks, your judgments, and your attempts to make me feel small on your show, the truth is, I want to fuck you." The words exploded into the pristine, manufactured calm of the studio like a grenade. It wasn't a shout, but a cold, deliberate statement. The studio, which had been holding its breath, collectively exhaled in a stunned, disbelieving gasp. Cameras seemed to freeze. The band members looked at each other in utter horror. Jimmy Kimmel's face, already pale, drained completely of color. His jaw literally dropped. His eyes widened to the size of saucers, fixed on Stormy Daniels, who remained perfectly composed, her gaze unwavering, a ghost of a knowing smirk now playing on her lips. The air was thick with the weight of what had just been uttered, a phrase so explicit, so utterly unprecedented in that context that it defied all television norms. Kimmel, usually so quick with a comeback, so adept at controlling the narrative, was utterly, completely, terrifyingly silent. He stammered, a choked, pathetic sound. "Well, what? What did you just say?" he managed, his voice barely a whisper. But Stormy Daniels, having delivered her devastating punch, simply leaned back in her chair. She crossed her legs, a picture of calm defiance. She didn't need to elaborate. The words hung in the air, a burning indictment, an unerasable stain on the broadcast. She had not walked off. She had not yelled. She had simply calmly delivered the ultimate, shocking verbal blow, using Kimmel's own implied sensationalism against him. The show immediately cut to commercial, a panicked, jarring transition. The screen went black, then to an advertisement, but the image of Kimmel's shocked face, in the echoing reverberation of Stormy Daniels' words, was burned into the minds of millions. It wasn't just a controversial interview, it was a historic moment of raw, unfiltered, utterly shocking defiance. This was no performance. This was the moment an underestimated figure turned the tables with a statement so audacious, so boundary-shattering, that it fundamentally altered the landscape of live television. It left Kimmel's career hanging in the balance, and Stormy Daniels, against all expectations, emerged not just as a survivor, but as an undeniable, unforgettable force. What does this tell us about the hidden power dynamics in media, about the lengths to which hosts will push, and the unexpected ways in which an interviewee can reclaim control? Was Stormy Daniels justified in her shocking retort, or did she cross a line too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you want more explosive celebrity confrontations like this one, and let me know what other controversial moments you'd like to see examined. Trust me, the truth is often stranger and far more dramatic than fiction.